So I just finished watching the 2025 version of The Wolf Man for the second time. This movie is like 75% like on the button and 25% just totally off, to be honest with you. Now, like Lee Winnell, and if you followed this channel for a long time, you know that like I love Lee Winnell. He and James Wan are like two geniuses that were meant to work together. Lee Winnell wrote like I think all the Insidious movies. This is probably the most flawed film that I've ever seen him direct. Now you'll hear me refer to The Invisible Man a lot of the time, particularly when talking about like wokeness and movies and shit like that. And it's like I refer to The Invisible Man and I say this is how it's done. All the elements are there, you know, like the allegory of an abusive relationship, like being made to look and feel like you're crazy. It's all there, but it never forgets for one instant that it's a horror film. And I can give half of the same compliment to The Wolf Man. The theme of this one is essentially, best I could tell, like sort of generational trauma, or like, you know, having a toxic parent that you don't want to end up like them, which, if done right, can be a very poignant topic. The problem is the first like 20 minutes of the movie are almost unbearable. In that regard, I would actually compare this to Rob Zombie's Halloween because, you know, same thing in the beginning of Rob Zombie's Halloween. That like first 20 minutes, the writing was just like off. You had Sherry Moon Zombie, who was supposed to be playing like a sympathetic character, but she's swearing like a truck driver to the principal. And it's just, in that particular case, it's sort of like, okay, this is all Rob Zombie can write for. He can write trashy characters and that's it. He doesn't really stray from that. So it's like I could at least give him that olive branch. In this particular case, okay, so you have this guy, the main character. His father is sort of like an obsessed survivalist. I mean, they show you a lot of visual indicators. Beautiful movie, by the way, very well shot, amazing sound design. But you see like the bars on the windows and stuff like that, and that's to sort of insinuate that the father is perhaps a little. But honestly, it shows you him as a child with his father. They're going on a hunting trip, and the father doesn't really. I mean, I'm not saying that like, you know, making your kid an obsessed survivalist isn't a form of abuse, but he's not like really like unnecessarily yelling at the kid. He's like, you know, why did you wander off? Like, don't do that. You know, he displayed a lot of like love, affection, and care for the kid. So I feel like if this was the theme Lee Winnell wanted to go for, I mean, the dad should have been like abusive or something like that. You know, like, hey, what did I tell you? Just given the theme. And that's the problem. The first 20 minutes of this film are very heavy on the theme. And then you see this guy, you know, when he's grown up. And his daughter is being kind of a mental case. They're in the city. She jumps up on these like, you know, sort of traffic things that are adjacent to the sidewalk, and you know, she jumps back down like right in front of some strange man, and the guy's, hey, what the fuck, kid, you know, kind of a thing. And personally, I think that his fatherly response was fine. You know, he stepped in front of the guy and protected his daughter. He said like, hey. And then he basically turned around, and I mean, I'm paraphrasing here, but it was basically like, what did I tell you? What did I tell you? You know, it's like, okay, so the dude's a parent. I mean, I guess Lee Winnell might say like, oh, he was just paranoid about becoming his father, but there was nothing really, like, I expected something a little bit more Jack Torrance-y. In fact, if you want to watch two good horror films about like, you know, generational trauma and like inherited mental illness, like The Shining, actually three: The Shining, Doctor Sleep, and fuck my life, what was the third one? Oh, and Hereditary. Hereditary got under my skin like no other horror film. But anyways, everything that they did to sort of portray this guy having his father's like genetic predisposition to be crazy, I guess, or angry or something like that, uh, it just comes across as like underdone. And again, for the first 20 minutes, they go for that theme, and it's like, I hate this. The wife like just seems like a complete and totally emotionally vacant. See you next Tuesday. Like, she's on a business call. He just opens a thing, finding out his father was dead and left him his estate and shit like that. And he doesn't even like freak out on his family. He's just like, "Hun, can you like do that in the other room? Han, seriously, could you like do that in the other room?" It's like, I think it would have been a lot more poignant if they, and especially, I mean, given the information that his father has just died. Oh, could you do that in the other room, please? Would you shut the fuck up? And then it's like the daughter's alarmed, the mother's alarmed, and it could have even been like an emotionally poignant scene after the fact where she, where he says like, I'm sorry, I just found out my dad is dead, and she's like, oh, sweetie, like, I'm sorry, but like, you can't be like that. You haven't been like that in a really long time. It would have been more of a theme where, like, I could see how she was a little bit distant, like maybe he had been really angry in the past, and this one outburst might be enough to, like, sort of display that. But this dude really has the vibe of just like a relatively chill dad. Now, to be fair, okay, I still really enjoy the movie. I think that it's a solid werewolf movie. The theme fails, okay, like, and that's why I say like the first 20 minutes are almost unbearable, okay, but the film does get better as it goes along, okay. It has more of a it has great suspense, okay, and apart from that initial like suspension of disbelief, you do really feel bad for this guy. It's very clear that this was the way he was directed. He doesn't want to be like his father. He's afraid he's going to end up like his father, and to some weird degree he kind of does. I mean, again, there's some like Dr. Sleep, themes in there, okay, that are done really well. The Okay, so like in terms of like being a bloodbath, like people getting killed and torn apart left and right, there's not that much of that, but there's still a lot of really gross shit in this. Kind of like a Brundlefly thing, like his slow transformation into the Wolfman, and the way that that is portrayed instead physically, but from his perspective, and even like the evolution of him like not recognizing his family. It's very steady. It's very suspenseful. There's some other themes in it that actually I think pay homage even to the 2010 Wolfman, which I think was somewhat underrated. I mean, Tony Hopkins was great. I think that what's this? Benicio del Toro. I think he sleptwalked his way through the role, but Tony Hopkins was good. Anyhow, this one, like from an emotional standpoint, and even from like again generational like standpoint, I think it hits the nail on the head as far as like a werewolf movie goes. And some people complained about like the makeup and how it was like very minimalist and stuff like that. Again, kind of like the Brundlefly thing. Like I like that. I like the slow transition. I like the fact that they didn't go like full blown. Because I mean, even the original Wolfman. I mean, he was just a freaking dude with like a weird fro and a beard. I mean, like that was his whole thing. So I think that Lee Winnell went out of his way to stick with sort of like the timelines of the movies, like paying homage to all of them, whilst incorporating sort of his own vision. I just wish that he had gone a little harder with it at the beginning. I feel that it would have made the rest of the film like that much better. But the entire movie, I promise, gets better as it goes along. Okay, it's really just a matter of whether or not those first 20 minutes like ruin the entire movie for you. All right, so that's my take on the whole thing. Did you guys see it? What did you think about it? Please let me know. And that's all she wrote.